What's good, everybody? Today's live stream, September 15th, 2023. Let me get everything ready. Hold on one second. I'm going to wait for people to pile in. Generally, I'm going to be doing these live streams, let's say around 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. every day, at least, 1 hour at least. You can catch me, come in live. All right. I'm doing it real hood style. I'm running it from my computer from OBS. And then I got the live stream chat right here on my phone, so I'll be replying to comments as they come in. So I know some people might be asleep. They might catch this on the playback. Some people might be busy at work at this time. But hey, everything is up to be recorded and heard later as well. So for anybody who's new, who's coming into this live stream for the first time, or this is your first time seeing me, I'll introduce myself. My name's Simon Hill. I'm 33 years old as of yesterday. I'm a Black American from Louisiana. I've been traveling around the world for the past few years, documenting my experiences about what it's like to be Black abroad in different countries and spaces, to provide information for other Black travelers, whether that be from the continent or from the diaspora. I'm a Muslim nominally as well. I'm a husband to a beautiful, beautiful woman from Turkey. And I've been working hard, man, trying to blow up this YouTube channel, trying to provide information for people, trying to build, grow, develop, to fight back against white supremacy and all the ideas that are unconducive for us as a human species. And today is the first of a series I'm going to be doing. Whenever I hear something that makes me happy about us as a people, as Black people, I'm going to be talking about it. So let's get to it. We're not going to waste a lot of time. Today, we're talking about justice. I see we have the wacky world of OTV. What up, Simon? You make great content. Thank you. Salute to you. I don't know who you are, but let's build, let's connect. My email is in the About section. Everybody can hit me up, man. It's open door policy. Everybody's open to get a platform here, especially if you're Black. But today, let's do it. Today is the first episode of God Loves Black People. Whenever I see something in the news or anything about our people that makes me happy and smile, to see us overcome the tragedies that happen to us consistently as a people, I'm going to smile and I'm going to say, thank you, God, because God loves us. We were the first people on the planet. We have traveled all across the planet before any other group of people. We are the foundation of civilization. Black people are special. We're chosen. We're chosen. And God has truly blessed us. And even though we live in a world that is now hostile to our life and our expression, we will always overcome because God is just. Whatever God you believe in, whether you that be Jesus, Yahweh, Allah, whether you believe in the spirits or the universe, or even if you're an atheist, you have to believe in some sort of divine justice. Because I truly believe that there's no evil in the world that does not have a response to it. Everything in the universe is governed by reactions and actions and reactions. For every action, there is a reaction equal to that. And for all the evil that has been happening to Black people, especially from Black people from Africa over the past few years, God has shown He has not forgotten us. Divine justice of the universe has not forgotten us. The evil actions that were done to us as a people are being met with tragedies for the people that acted those things upon us. Let's get to the comments before I read. So, Wacky TV says, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. More people piling in. This is still a small channel, 3 people in the live stream, but let's get to it. Let's start today by going to church. Let's go to church. As you guys know, I am not a Christian at all. I am not a Christian at all. And I don't have a lot of positive things to say about Black Christians in general. But there is wisdom that can be found in the Bible. And today we're going to be starting with some biblical verses. This is a article from this website that comprises biblical verses, and we have 24 informative Bible verses about justice. This was published on February 15th, 2021. The link for this article and all the ones that will be in today's live stream are in the description of this video. But let's read, because I only want to read the first 4 from this article here. The topic of justice comes up frequently in Scripture. It's a major theme of the Old Testament, and it's central to the heart of the gospel. In the Bible, justice is about relationships. It's about establishing a right relationship between others, but it's also about having an unbiased relationship with the truth. We've put together 24 Bible verses that help us understand what God means when he talks about justice. Let's look at number one. Do not pervert justice. Leviticus 19:15. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. The explanation for this verse: ultimately, God's concern is for impartial justice. We're not to show a preference for the rich or the poor, but rather to judge impartially. In this way, human judgment reflects the unprejudiced judgment of God. God does not love any other group of people ever even more. Even if you're looking at this title and you're saying God loves black people more than other people, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that God is unbiased. God cannot be swayed by man's decisions about who is more worthy of justice. There is only one sort of justice, and that is being true and noble and kind and loving to other humans. Let's go to number two. God shows no partiality. This is Deuteronomy 10:17 and 18. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. The explanation for this verse: the Bible talks a lot about caring for vulnerable groups, orphans, widows, and foreigners. Families were the stabilizing unit in the ancient Near Past. As long as you had a family to care for you, you'd never know want. This is why widows, orphans, and foreigners were so defenseless and exposed, and why God contends for them regularly. This is still true today. It's still true today. Foreigners, people who are without homes, without refuge, refugees, migrants are the people that deserve the most protection. And God will be kind to those people who show kindness to the people that need refuge. But if you are wicked to them, God will show justice. Let's go to verse 3. Cursed is anyone who withholds justice. Deuteronomy 27:19. Cursed is anyone who withholds justice from the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow. Then all the people shall say, Amen. God was so serious about the issue of justice that he preemptively cursed those who withhold justice from others. This is a stern warning that Israel will ignore too often, which causes them to experience God's justice. By Israel, they're not referring to the nation state, they're referring to the tribe of Israel, the Jewish people, and that sort of thing. And we love Jewish people on this channel. You'll never hear me say anything negative about Jewish people at all. But what did I just say? God will curse those who are unkind and wicked to the foreigner, and he keeps his promises. And the last verse I'll read today for the Bible before anybody thinks I'm a Bible thumper. Once again, guys, I am not a Christian, but we are talking about divine justice. The actions of the world have reactions, no matter what they be. Number 4, last one. Defend the fatherless and the oppressed. This is Psalm 10:17 and 18. You, Lord, hear the desire of the afflicted. You encourage them, and you listen to their cry, defending the fatherless and the oppressed, so that mere earthly mortals will never again strike terror. This psalm of praise assures the worshiper that God pays attention to the cries of the oppressed, even when it may not seem that way. The psalmist then says that God protects the oppressed from the terror of mortals who might otherwise ignore or exploit them. This is absolutely true because I'm pretty sure on all of those boats that the African migrants were taking across the Mediterranean, there were more cries for God on there than in any church on the planet combined. People there were screaming for God to protect them and guide them as they were crossing treacherous waters. And some people might say, well, they're doing that to go get money. We're going to talk about that later at the very end of the stream. But the people who are crossing the Mediterranean are just in trying to make a better life for themselves. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. They are oppressed people. They are orphans. They are fatherless people. They are people who need help. And God will bless the people who give them help. But God will curse those. He will curse those who leave them to be oppressed or oppress them. And for people who don't like the Bible verses, let's quickly jump to the Quran. The Quran talks about justice too. 5 verses from the Holy Quran on justice. O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or parents and relatives. Whether one is rich or poor, Allah is more worthy of both. Sadaqa Allahu Azim. My Arabic is bad. My Arabic is bad. So, believers are tasked with upholding justice. O you who believe, be upright for God and be bearers of witness with justice. Justice is divine. Justice is a divine command. God commands justice and fair dealing. Justice is a tool to maintain balance. And the heaven he raised and imposed the balance, that you not transgress the balance and establish weight in justice and do not make deficient the balance. We must stand up for what is right even when it is hard. Oh, you have believed. Be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or parents and relatives. Whether one is rich or poor, Allah is more worthy of both. Amen. That's all we have to say from the Quran or the Bible. Once again, this is not about religion, but we're talking about divine justice. Now let's talk about Africa. As we know, in Africa, for the past few years, a lot of countries here have been unstable. They are not providing jobs and opportunities for the young people who are the majority of the population on this vast continent in the majority of these countries. A lot of these places are struggling. A lot of these countries have arbitrary borders that were created by colonial powers that prevent these countries from actually reaching their full potential. But even with those limits on them, these arbitrary borders that divide people that should be together, these are some of the richest places on earth, minerally and with human capital, and have the greatest potential to be the places with the highest standard of living if we can get things right in this world, right? Especially if Black people can come together and make it work in Africa. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world now. Maybe in an alternate universe, this does exist. But right now in Africa, many, many young people are risking their lives to cross the Sahara Desert, cross the Mediterranean, to make a better life for themselves in Europe or in other places, right? And for the past few years, people from, let's say, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Niger, Mali, Senegal, Gambia, all of these places, and many other places in Africa, but primarily West Africa, have been going up to Morocco. Because as you see, Morocco is very, very close to Spain. I think it's only a 5 kilometer distance in water to get from Morocco to Spain. So many people look at Morocco as their launching point to get into Spain, seek asylum, and to find jobs and opportunity, man. But what have the Moroccans done to the Black Africans who have been trying not to stay in Morocco, not to commit crime in Morocco, not to hurt the Moroccan people, simply passing through, simply being travelers? Let's look. Okay, this was about Libya. Hold on, wait. We're going to talk about Morocco first. Where we at? Sorry, man. I had this all over. 27, 27 Black Africans died trying to cross land border from Morocco to Spain. I spoke about this on my channel about a year ago. It's not like they died trying to swim across. No, the Moroccan border police literally shot these people, walked over their bodies. This video got flagged by YouTube, and YouTube tried to demonetize it and that sort of thing. We disputed it and we worked it out, right? It's limited monetization now, unfortunately, possibly because I showed the video of the Moroccans walking over the bodies of the Black Africans who were simply trying to cross, simply trying to get out of Morocco, right? Because the EU gives billions of dollars every year to many North African countries to be brutal to the Black African migrants to prevent them to crossing into the EU. Let's get to, speaking of EU, let's get to this comment. EU in the comment section says, God bless, brother. Happy birthday. Mine was last week as well. Happy birthday to you. Every year is a blessing. Take advantage of every day of your life and keep it pushing, man. But anyway, like I was saying, in Morocco, they abused us. They abused Black people. And yes, I'm putting myself in it, even though I'm not a Black African. I'm a Black American. But there was a story about 3 years ago about a black American brother who went to Morocco and he got picked up by the Moroccan police, thrown into the back of a van, and left in the Sahara with a bunch of other black African migrants. This happens across North Africa. The EU funds North African governments to be brutal to black Africans so they don't cross into the fortress Europe, right? Morocco has historically been very, very bad to the travelers from black Africa crossing into Europe. And what did God do? What did God do? God sent an earthquake. Now, we are not celebrating the deaths of Moroccan people. This article here says from Voice of America, death toll surges above 2,900 in aftermath of Morocco earthquake. I'm not saying that God is punishing the exact people who have wronged black African migrants, but God is divine and just. God is divine and just, and God loves black people. God loves all people who are oppressed, and God is unbiased. What God did here is show that he did not forget all the black bodies that are buried under the sands in Morocco, and how the wickedness of some Moroccan people have cursed this land. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck, man. We are not playing around here. Black people, I am not saying that we need to inflict justice upon the people who have wronged us, because God will always, always, always be the get back for us. We don't have to fight them. We don't have to harass them, because we don't do that. We're a peaceful people, black people in general. But God will always, always stand up for us. This Moroccan earthquake is a tragedy. But what is more of a tragedy is how Morocco has consistently decided to be racist, xenophobic, and hateful to black people. So God got get back on them. That that earthquake that took about 3,000 Moroccan lives, I believe, is the divine justice of the man above or woman above, however you see it. However you see it. Let's go back to Africa here. So on the map, also, we see here in Africa that many of the other countries that are very close to Europe are all here, like Libya, Tunisia, Algeria. But a lot of migrants saw Libya as one of the best places to begin their journey because it's very, very close to Italy. And there are many islands there in the Mediterranean at the southern part of Italy's border that are places where they could seek asylum. They take a boat there and it's very close. Not as close as Morocco and Spain, but very close. And Libya has also had a civil war that's been going on for many years now. For many years now. And so people are taking advantage of the instability in Libya to to uh to safely travel, right? Because the police and the armed forces are focused more on fighting each other. But what have we seen when the black African migrants who went to Libya, what happened to them? Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck. African migrants traded in Libya's slave markets. People are held for ransom, forced labor, or sexual exploitation after being sold up to $500, the UN agency says. This was back in 2017, and we didn't forget. We didn't forget. I remember seeing the videos of them taking black African migrants and holding them for ransom and telling them that people could come and buy them and holding them in cages and that sort of thing. Libya has been hell on earth for black people. And you can find many, many videos, documentaries, examples talking about this. All of the links to these articles will be in the description of this video. Libya has been hell for black people for many years now. And Libya, what happened to them? What happened to them? God got get back. There was recently a flood in Libya where over 11,300 people lost their lives in the city of Derna. God got get back. God didn't forget. God didn't forget the tragedies that were inflicted upon black people in Libya. He did not forget when they were selling us as slaves, when they were raping black women, when they were abusing us, killing us for no reason, and letting us die, or taking the money from migrants and not getting them across the waters, literally robbing them. It's sad that that happened. It's very sad. And all of these links are in the article. We are not celebrating anybody's death. In fact, I have to say, I have a special love for Libyan people. When I was teaching in Tunisia, some of my favorite students were Libyans because the Libyans are very respectful people, very kind hearted, very nice. And once again, we're not saying that this tragedy of the loss of life of these Libyan people in the flood that happened when this dam broke, that all of these people were hateful to black people, that all of them were the ones who are selling us as slaves in Libya. But we have to keep it real. God did not forget how they treated us as slaves, and the get back was real. God is about divine justice. All actions have reactions, and you can't sell people as slaves and not expect something bad to happen to you. It's cause and effect, baby. It's cause and effect. It's cause and effect. I talked about all of this, a lot of this before on my channel, but we're gonna be really building today. We're gonna keep it real, man. Gonna keep it real. This live stream is real. Anybody in the comments, hit me up. We're building and talking real heavy today. Real heavy today. So let's keep it real. Let's continue talking. How has Italy been treating the black migrants who have been finding a way to make it onto the boats crossing into the Mediterranean Sea? I'm sure some of you remember this story. Italy turns away ship carrying over 600 migrants as debate continues on Europe's response to migrant crisis. This was published on June 15th, 2018. If you remember, to summarize the story, basically 600 African migrants popped up in a boat on Italian at an Italian port, and they were not allowed to enter into they were not allowed to disembark, right? And this was when Sergio Matteo, this guy, I forgot, yeah, Matteo Salvini, when he was the prime minister of Italy. But let's read through this article real quick. Italy escalated its quarrel with France over migration Wednesday, challenging the bordering country to take in more asylum seekers and demanding an apology after the French president accused the new Italian government of irresponsible behavior for refusing entry to a rescue ship with hundreds of migrants aboard. Interior Minister Matteo Salvini chided French President Emmanuel Macron by name during a speech before Parliament's upper chamber, while Italian news reporters said a meeting between Macron and Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte planned for Friday now was in doubt. Blah, 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 blah. We're not going to get into all of that, but that's basically the story. And this crisis that Matteo Salvini caused himself by just not being a decent human being, by allowing the people to enter, seek refuge, and go where they needed to go, caused him to lose his political career. Matteo Salvini to face trial over standoff with migrant rescue ship. We're not going to read all over this article, but basically, the prime minister of Italy lost his job, lost his clout, essentially because he didn't do the right thing. What he did was illegal by all standards. And let's go to this article. Palmero prosecutors have accused Salvini of dereliction of duty and kidnapping for keeping the migrants at sea off the coast of Lampedusa for almost 3 weeks in August 2019. During the standoff, some people threw themselves overboard in desperation as the captain pleaded for a safe, closed port. Eventually, after a 19-day ordeal, the remaining 83 migrants still on board were allowed to disembark in Lampedusa. Salvini had maintained a hard line on migration as interior minister during the first government of then Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte from 2018 to 2019. While demanding that EU nations do more to take in migrants arriving in Italy, Salvini argued that humanitarian rescue ships were only encouraging Libyan based traffickers and that his policy saved lives by discouraging further risky trips across the Mediterranean. So, he's trying to say that it's humanitarian to not let these people in. But when people have been left on a boat for weeks with no shelter in the same clothes that they've had for days and they've had to struggle to survive, you're going to say that's humanitarian more than letting them get off the boat, feeding them, clothing them. Italy prides itself on being a Catholic nation. It's the place where the Vatican is hosted. What does Jesus say about feeding the poor, helping the orphan and the traveler and all of that? Let's keep it a buck. I see Don is in here. The Don sent 100, 100, 100. What's up? Yeah, we keeping it real today. God loves justice. God loves black people. And God will not forget what people like Matteo Salvini did. Matteo Salvini lost his career, and now Italy has a new prime minister now. This woman, Giorgia Meloni. She's a right-wing politician with ties to who has fascist roots. She is a fan of Mussolini, and she is the first female prime minister of Italy, right? And she is hardline on migrants. This woman here is not playing when she talks about she wants to basically be like Trump, to Italy. She wants to do whatever it takes to be hardline on migrants. Let's read a bit about her. Giorgia Meloni has made history to become Italy's first female prime minister and will lead what will be the country's most right wing government since World War II. Her far right Brother of Italy party is a part of a coalition that has made reducing immigration a key part of its agenda. For African migrants like Mustafa Jarju in Palermo, the capital of Sicily, it heralds frightening times ahead. I am very worried it's going to create a lot of negative impact on the lives of migrants like me. The 24-year-old, who is a spokesman for the Gambian Community Association in Palermo, says the policy might fan divisions and hatred towards migrants. He cites the murder in daylight of the disabled Nigerian street vendor Alika Ogarachukwa. I can't pronounce that. Any Nigerians, let me know how to pronounce that name. On the mainland in August, as an example. Italy is one of the main entry points into Europe, and since the start of the year, 70,000 migrants have arrived on boats on the country's shores. By the way, this was written back in 2022, October 2022. Right, migrants keep pouring into Italy. Right, Miss Maloney wants to tighten the system for asylum seekers to choke off this irregular migration, which she says threatens the security and quality of life of its citizens. She also wants to increase repatriations, target charity ships that rescue migrants who get into trouble during the Mediterranean crossing, and has called for a naval blockade of North Africa. That's a damn shame. Water break. Drink more water, guys. Listen, what type of sick person says you want to target people who are doing charity work? What type of sick mind do you have to say, you know what, we're going to prosecute the people or prevent the people from doing charity work, from helping people who are coming in with nothing on their backs but the clothes that they have? Let's keep it real, man. What type of person would do that? And of course, we know why they're doing it, because they're racist and anti-black and xenophobic and also scared of the poor of the earth. But you have to have no heart at all to say you're going to target charity ships. Like, come on, let's keep it real. So this is Mustafa Jarju. Mr. Jarju's journey to Italy, like that of many others, was incredibly dangerous. He arrived here age 17 in December 2016, having left his home in West Africa in search of a better life. It is a miracle he made it after leaving the Gambia and getting into Libya. His nightmare began as he was held there in prison on 3 occasions, each time managing to escape. I'm telling y'all guys, Libya was not a game. Libya was not a game, man. What did I tell y'all? We're speaking today about justice, divine justice. They were holding black people as slaves and prisoners in Libya. And Jarju, this guy talking in that story that we're reading about right now, is one of the lucky few. There are many black people who are still in prison in Libya, who are still being held in substandard conditions, who are being held in deplorable places. And these people are held captive by people who really have no kindness in their heart. And they are wicked, hateful, and anti black. Let's continue building. Let's continue reading. Come on. So he survived the terrifying sea crossing on a dinghy before landing in Sicily, only to end up working as a farm laborer for very low pay in terrible conditions, growing watermelons and tomatoes on the island's hinterlands. It's a shame, man, that so many migrants in the world end up in low skilled menial jobs. But what can you expect when you come with nothing on your back? When you didn't get anything popping in your homeland, of course you're going to go to Italy, a place where you probably don't know the language, don't have a community, and don't have any ties to people who can hook you up, right? And that's very sad that these people are getting exploited like that. But the exploitation first starts in Africa, and we're going to get to that. Trust me, we're going to build heavy on how the African continent is being raped of its wealth, which is causing all of this to happen. Europe has a parasitic relationship with Africa. They have to suck Africa's blood for its resources and money and people. The most educated people are sucked out of Africa to go be the doctors and engineers in Europe and in the Americas. But at the same time, they leave the countries there destitute and poor, right? Causing the migrant crisis to happen. It's a parasitic relationship that is not working for either parties. But we're going to build on that heavy later. Let's continue. Let's continue. But his fortunes changed when he was issued with official documents which he had applied for as an asylum seeker. This allowed him to move to Palermo to pursue his education. So, Palermo has long had a reputation for welcoming migrants. This is a street scene from Palermo, right? I really wanted to go to Palermo while I was in Italy, but I never had the chance to. Would love to, though. Would love to. So, he is currently in the second year of his nursing degree and hopes to work in a hospital in the city when he graduates. If Miss Maloney makes good on her promises, it will be more difficult for migrants to make their status official. Documents are an important gateway into integration, Mr. Jarju says, adding that without them, many migrants will simply become invisible and be forced to eke out a bleak existence on the margins of Italian society. He is especially worried about the threats to make it tougher for migrants to make sea crossings by criminalizing charity rescue ships. This would simply lead to more deaths in the Mediterranean, he says. It's a shame, man. I've heard many stories. There was a Vice documentary about being black in Italy, and many of the black Italians who have been there since they were born, like literally, you can be born in Italy, but if you're neither of your parents are Italian, you cannot claim Italian citizenship. And a lot of black people in Italy are caught up in that catch 22, right? Like they aren't able to make their status official in the only country that they've known. It's very sad, and I think birthright citizenship should be something that every country has in general. If you were born there, you're a citizen there, especially if you grew up there. Like, and you could even give restrictions on it, right? Like you could even say, if you're born here, but if you leave when you're two, maybe you can't claim citizenship. But let's say you were born there and you stayed there until you were like 5 years old or 10 years old. You know the language; it's your mother tongue essentially. Like, come on, like why would you kick people out or not give them citizenship in a case like that, right? But that's what many of the black people in Italy are going through, and that's a shame, man. That's a shame. Once again, as a black American, I don't have these problems, but I see myself in these people, right? Because we have to realize, as black people, we have to realize that even if we have our individual cultures or ethnic groups or nationalities that we claim or take heritage in or pride in, we still have to see ourselves as a collective because the world sees us as a collective. Nobody looks at me and says, well, that's an American. That's obviously an American. People might look at me and assume most of the time that I'm from Africa, right? And not even a specific African nation, just Africa, because to people who are non-black, Africa is just basically one big country, right? How many times have you heard people make that mistake? You're from the country of Africa, right? Or people say that all the time because people have this conception that Africa is just one big place and black people are all just this one big monolith, and we got to break that, right? All right, so I got a comment from Mudia Sorobia. How many people have called you NG in Budapest? And by that, I assume he means the famous racial slur, the famous racial slur. But none yet. You know what? I've been in Budapest for little less than a month now, right? Maybe about 3 weeks so far, and so far so good. Basically, people in Budapest are keeping it real and they're minding their own business and they're not harassing black people in the streets. And plus, I see a lot of black people out here in Budapest, and it's a beautiful thing. But let's keep building. Let's keep building about what the situation is in Italy. Let's keep it going. World's largest cemetery. But the migrants have a powerful ally in Pope Francis, who, in a speech at St. Peter's Square in the Vatican last weekend, gave a passionate defense of them. Although the pontiff did not mention Italy by name, his intervention could be seen as a rebuke of the incoming coalition's policies. He said the exclusion of migrants was scandalous, disgusting, and sinful, dubbing the Mediterranean the world's largest cemetery, which is absolutely true, in reference to the thousands of migrants who have perished in its waters over the last few years. It is criminal not to open doors to those who are needy, he said. Despite Mr. Jarju's fears, the city of Palermo has a long-standing reputation for being welcoming to migrants. But let's keep it real. Even though the Pope is talking all this flowery language about treating black migrants, right? We have to remember that the Catholic Church has a long history of condoning slavery and anti-black racism, right? All through Latin America, all of those Catholic countries imported millions of black bodies and killed and committed genocide on our black people, right? What happened in Brazil, what happened in Argentina, what happened all throughout Latin America. All of these Catholic countries got their permission from the Catholic Church to commit genocide and slavery on us. So even though we appreciate Pope Francis's words, we need an apology from the Catholic Church. If that hasn't happened, we need reparations from the Catholic Church. If that has happened, if they've already given apology, that's fine. But we need reparations from the Catholic Church because I'm pretty sure the Catholic Church still has money, like many other institutions in the world, still has money from those days of human trafficking and slavery. Let's continue though. Murdia Sobia, I'm in Eastern Europe too, my brother. Yeah, big up, big looks. Eastern Europe is actually pretty lit. It's chill, pretty safe and calm in general. A lot of corruption in Eastern Europe, unfortunately. But Eastern Europe is a cool place to build, man. A lot of parks, a lot of greenery, good weather, all 4 seasons. I like Eastern Europe. Plus, it's not as expensive as Western Europe. All right, some guy with the I don't know how to say this name. I always ask where people are from specifically. Yeah, it's good to ask that, man. Don't come up to black people. My suggestion for any white people who watch this channel, by the way, I don't know why white people watch this channel because this is a very black ass YouTube channel. But if you do meet black people, don't just say, "So you're from Nigeria, right?" Or "You're from Somalia, right?" When you just see a black person, right? How about you have some dignity and respect the same way you would treat a white person? You wouldn't say, "Hey, you must be from Germany, buddy." No, like give people respect and ask them where they're from. Have a normal, decent conversation with them. Murdia Sobia said, originally from the Southwest USA. All right, big up to you, man. I don't know, Southwest, what is that? Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, that sort of thing. All right, but let's keep building. Let's keep building about the migrants in Italy. So here's a picture of Saint Benedict depicted here in a mural by artist Igor Scalisi. Palminteri is one of the patron saints of Palermo. The reason I'm building this story, the reason I'm reading this story and not any of the other articles is because we need to get a picture and understand about how the migrants are coming to Italy, what their situation is, and that sort of thing. And let's first talk about Black iconography, right? A lot of times, when you go to places in Europe or places where Black people are not a majority, they love to put iconography of us. They love to put photos and paintings and say, "Oh, this is our Black saint," or "This is our Black hero," or "We love Black athletes," or "This athlete that played for our football team," and that sort of thing. Meanwhile, in the streets, actual Black people are not allowed to rise up in companies. They're not allowed to be enter. They're not allowed to enter into the clubs. They're followed around in the stores and that sort of thing. So a lot of countries in Europe have this duality on how they view Black people. They like Black people on their screens. They like Black people on TV. They like Black people on their Facebook feeds or Instagram feeds and that sort of thing. But when we're actually in society, by the way, not doing anything, not committing crime, they treat us as second class citizens in a lot of European countries. Let's keep it real. Like, I've seen documentaries about being Black in Palermo, and the Black Africans in Palermo are once again harassed. Like, they're not allowed to enter into the clubs. People, they have their own separate things. Like, they're kind of segregated in that society, right? They have to uh, rent apartments in certain communities. They can't just rent with all the other Italians that live in their neighborhoods. It's weird, how they be. All right, so let's continue. Situated as it is on the edge of Europe, the city became a cultural melting pot in ancient times. And one of its patron saints is Saint Benedict the Moor, the first Black saint in history. I know white Italians in Palermo love to say that. I can't be racist. We have Saint Benedict the Moor. Like, come on, I know white people. White people love to do that. Anyway, let's continue. Fausto Melusa, the head of Archi Palermo, an umbrella association for 16 community groups in the city that represents 7,000 members, points out that most people in Sicily and southern Italy did not vote for Miss Maloney or vote at all. Many backed the populist five-star movement led by former Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte. Until recently, an independent left-wing politician in Palermo municipality, Mr. Maluso admits he is too worried about the anti-migrant positions Miss Maloney may pursue. He says her victory should be a wake-up call to challenge such attitudes and instead focus on integrating migrants into Italian society, which has falling birth rates like the majority of European nations. You should be glad anybody wants to come there. Let's keep it real. The Italians are not the Italians are not reproducing. I was about to say the F word. I'm not going to do that. I'm trying to stay monetized, buddy. The Italians are not reproducing. The French are not reproducing. The English are not reproducing. The Belgians are not reproducing. The Germans are not reproducing. Most of Eastern Europe is not reproducing. People should be begging people to come to these places, right? There are very few places in Europe where the indigenous or population or the white population are actually trying to maintain their numbers, right? And that's for a lot of reasons, right? That's because now a lot of women have the opportunity to be in the workforce and advance in their careers and not just become mothers at 22 or 23, right? They're able to have more options in their careers. A lot of these European countries are very expensive, so having one child is hard. Imagine having two or three, right? So there are a lot of factors, and I'm not going to get into all of that, but let's keep it real. Europe itself should be glad people, young people, are willing to risk their lives to actually come and try to work hard and be a part of that society. So integrating these people should be the policy for all of these nations. But instead, because of anti-black racism and hatred and fear of the black body, what they do is let us die in the Mediterranean. They allow the Libyans to sell us as slaves. The EU gives money to Libyans to do this. The EU gives money to Morocco to harass us and kill us. The EU allows all of this to happen, right? Under the guise of trying to protect their borders and their sovereignty, right? When these black migrants are coming just to build, nobody, most people, I'm going to say most people, don't try to risk their lives and leave their country, their culture, their all of what they have known most of their lives to go hurt and rob other people in different places, right? Especially black people. We're not like that. We're not like the white supremacists who specifically have traveled across the world, right? And colonized places, hurt people just to rob them of their resources. I don't think the majority of the young people or old people or anybody, the men, women, and children who are getting on these boats are going to do that. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. So, Italy and all of Europe should be glad that there are young people willing to develop in their society, right? Let's read some comments real quick. All right. Oh, I heard that Italy was terrible. Hey, man, it's interesting, man. What's happening here? And we're building on this. We're building together. Let's go. So a 23-year-old Mike, a 23-year-old Ghanaian migrant I met in the city is anxious to leave before life becomes even more difficult. Having lived in Palermo since the age of 17, he has struggled to sort out his documents and believes Italy's asylum system already makes it hard for migrants to integrate, often leaving them in limbo. He speaks fluent Italian, volunteers for community groups, studies, and also works as a waiter, yet continually faces an uphill battle. Every 2 years, he has to renew his documents, which takes up a lot of time and is a tough process for migrants. He is about to give up his job and move to France, where he has relatives and wants to go to university, though he does not know what he will do once his Italian documents expire next year. After 6 years here, nothing has changed for me. I feel like I arrived yesterday. And that's a damn shame. Shame on Italy for not doing what God said. What did we do? We started this live stream real biblical, real biblical, real biblical, man. Y'all got to read these verses. Y'all got to heed these verses. Even if you're not religious, there is wisdom in all religious text. And God said, "Be kind to the foreigner." God loves those who loves the foreigner and the stranger and helps them. And Italy, this very Catholic nation, has been very unkind to the African migrants who are foreigners there, who simply want to build. This man speaks Italian. He's basically integrated into the society. He's done everything that the racists and white supremacists and nationalists say that they want the migrants to do, which is integrate, which is to give back to their country, which is to not commit crime, which is to study, which is to work. He's done all of that and still can't get his documents. What does that say about Italy? What does that say about nationalism? What it does say is this: there is divine justice in all of this, man. Once again, people like Georgia Maloney, people like Matteo Salvini, people like the racist Libyans who enslaved Africans and sold them for $500, people like the evil Moroccans who allowed black people to be killed at the border just because the EU sent them some money and dump Africans into the Sahara, right? People like this will always face divine justice. Let's review for the people who are coming into the live stream late. Libya sold us as slaves. It was big international news. Libya never gave an apology for this. Libyan people make a lot of excuses for this. And what did God do? What did God do? God sent his curse upon the people who have cursed the foreigner. Once again, black people, we do not celebrate the deaths of people who oppress us. But like God protected Moses and the Jews when they wanted to leave Egypt, and he cursed Egypt for not allowing those people to leave, this same thing has fallen the people who had tried to prevent us, a people that God loved, from leaving. Libya was hateful and racist to us, literally tried to keep us enslaved, and God sent a curse upon Libya. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. What did God do? Black people wanted to go to Morocco, not to cause crime, not to hurt people. Black people wanted to get out of Morocco, like a lot of Moroccans do, unfortunately. And what did God do when they killed us at the border, dumped us in the desert? Let's keep it real. God sent his curse upon Morocco. There is divine justice. There are actions and reactions. You don't have to believe in Jesus. I don't. You don't have to believe in Allah. You don't have to believe in Yahweh. You don't have to pick up any specific book. But black people will find a way. We are never held back. People like Matteo Salvini lost his whole career just trying to stand up for a stupid talking point that the migrants need to go home. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck. Anybody who decides to stand against the oppressed always ends up oppressed themselves by a power that they can never, ever overcome. Let's keep it real, man. Georgie Maloney has faced a lot of criticism in the international arena, and she might lose her job as well, right? Because she is failing at keeping the migrants out. 70,000 popped up just last year, and we're about to get to the story today, right? But before we do that, let's talk about what we have usually seen. If you've been watching the news, usually you see a headline like this every now and then. 41 migrants die in shipwreck off Italy's Lampedusa. You see these comments all the time. You see these news alerts pop up in your feed all the time. 30 migrants die, 7 migrants left stranded, people dying in the Mediterranean every day. It's been a constant problem, right? 41 migrants have died in shipwreck off the Italian island of Lampedusa. This was published September 8th, I believe, 2023. This was this year, right? 41 migrants died in Lampedusa. Survivors told local media in a report on Wednesday, citing accounts from survivors. Some survivors told rescuers that they were on a boat that had set off from Sfax in Tunisia and sank on its way to Italy. The 4 survivors, originally from the Ivory Coast and Guinea, reportedly reached Lampedusa on Wednesday. They told the Coast Guard that 45 of them left Sfax, including 3 children. That's sad. At 10 a.m. on Thursday, ANSA reports. In the reports, they said the boat capsized due to a large wave and all migrants on board ended up in the sea. According to the 4, the even the only 15 that wore a life jacket also died, ANSA reported. It follows 2 other shipwrecks off the Italian island on Saturday that left a woman and her infant dead, while more than 100 migrants had to be rescued from the water. The waters in the Strait of Sicily have been extremely rough in recent days, making it hard for Italian Coast Guard boats to reach stranded migrants. More than 2,000 people more than 2,000 people have arrived in Lampedusa in the last few days after being rescued at sea by Italian patrol boats and NGO groups. Italy is experiencing a sharp surge in sea migration, with almost 92,000 arrivals recorded so far this year. It's crazy. It's crazy how the right wing just cucks itself, man. They cuck themselves. They elect right wing governments to stop migrants, but what happens? The migrants keep pouring in. We're going to talk about that, the camp of the saints. We're going to talk about that because I believe these people really secretly kind of want this to happen, right? For maybe nefarious reasons or good reasons, right? With almost 92,000 arrivals recorded so far this year, according to Interior Ministry data last updated on Friday, compared with more than 42,600 in the same period in 2022. According to reports, more than 1,800 people have lost their lives so far this year in the crossing from North Africa to Europe. In recent days, Italian patrol boats and charity groups have rescued another 2,000 people who have arrived in Lampedusa. So Lampedusa, once again, class, for the people that don't know, small island here in the Mediterranean, right above Libya. And in Tunisia, Sfax is a country, I wish I could draw on the screen, but Sfax is a city uh, that is sort of in the middle of Tunisia on the right? I used to work in Sfax. I used to teach there on the weekends back about 2.5 years ago, man, when I was living in Tunisia. It's a cool place, not that much to see as in the north of the country, and they don't have a beach in Sfax, which is, you know, kind of rough. But anyway, so the people are hopping in the boats from Tunisia and Libya, trying to get to Italy, landing in Lampedusa, and often we hear about these boats crashing, the people dying at sea, thousands of bodies have ended up. You would think that this was hopeless. You would think that people would not do it. You would think that the forces of the white supremacist governments of Italy and other EU members would dissuade the black people from trying to seek a better life for themselves. But no, no. God loves the foreigner. God loves the traveler. God loves the one who is doing right and is traveling with kindness in their heart. And he loves the people who are kind to the traveler, right? And what has now happened? Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. Italy's Lampedusa in crisis with thousands of migrant arrivals. Let's keep it real, man. Let's keep it real. This is a day to celebrate. Let's keep it real, man. Let's look at the images here. I got the images here, man. They pulling up in boats. They pulling up in boats. Our people making it. They made it, man. They made it. Then nothing's gonna hold us back, man. Let's keep it real, man. Some people might not like this. Some people might see this and say, "Oh, this is a tragedy," right? But let me ask you this: if you see this picture and you say, "Oh no, the migrants are coming, the refugees are coming, send those people back," let me ask you this: would you say the same thing if this was a picture full of blonde hair, blue eyed Ukrainians? For anybody who's gonna jump in the comment, for anybody who's gonna jump in the comments or watch this later and say, "Look at these negative words that they have for black people," if they use those slurs or negative words for this picture of beautiful black people in a boat trying to make a better life for themselves because the African nations they come from were ripped apart and torn to shreds by Europeans, would you say those negative things if this was a boat full of blonde hair, blue eyed Ukrainians? No, you wouldn't. So shut the front door. Don't ever talk to me like that. Don't ever talk to us like that. We're humans just like everybody else on the planet, and we deserve the opportunity to take care of ourselves, our family, and our people. It doesn't matter our religion. Doesn't matter if we're Muslim, Christian, animist, Jewish, whatever. We are humans just like everybody else. Nothing can hold us back. God is with us. God is with those who love the foreigner. God is with those who is nice to the foreigner and kind to the foreigner. God blesses these people for risking their lives to make themselves have a better life, right? And if the Europeans don't want more black migrants coming into Italy, coming into Europe in general, how about you do this? Pay reparations to all the African nations that you robbed of their wealth, robbed of their gold, robbed of their uranium, robbed of their people through slavery. Pay reparations to the black people that you have consistently robbed of. And maybe we won't show up at your front door like this. Let's keep it a buck, man. We're not playing. We are not playing. God loves us. God is with us. And God is with those who are with us because we stand on truth and righteousness and peace and justice. Anybody who stands against us will continue to have us pour in. We coming, man. We can't be stopped, man. And yeah, I got these videos from 4chan, man. I got these videos from people who hate us, and they're going to show this video to other right wing people and say, oh no, the migrants are coming. But if this was Ukrainians, if this was a bunch of Russians, nah, they wouldn't be talking that spicy. But because it's us, because they believe negative things about us, they're going to see this image and say, oh no, what a tragedy. No, this is not a tragedy. What is a tragedy is that places like Italy have made Africa so unlivable that people have to pull up at your front door. Let's go. I'm not playing with any of y'all. I don't see anything wrong with any of this. There was a funny video in here. Hold up. There was one I really wanted to build on. Not this one. There's another video in here. I hope these don't get flagged. There's nothing violent in them. No, not this one. This one is funny though. This brother happy as hell. Love to see that, man. Hold on, wait. Now, where's the video of the boats, man? I'm trying to find the video of the boats. I hope I didn't delete it. Ah, no, not this one. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm trying to find this video that was very interesting of the boats. Yeah. Yeah. This is the scene of Lampedusa yesterday when the African migrants pulled up in the boats, man. boats after boats after boats after boats. And this is what makes me feel like God loves us, man, because no matter how many people died in the Mediterranean, no matter how many billions of dollars Europe sends to racist North African countries to kill us at the border, sell us as slaves, lock us in jails, and that sort of thing, we will still find a way. It reminds me of like what Martin Luther King said about the mountaintop, right? What did Martin Luther King say? He said, I might not get there with you, but I promise you, we will make it to the promised land. And here, I'm not talking here. Let's keep it real. I'm not trying to say that Europe is promised land. I'm not trying to say that Europe is the place to be, right? Especially for black people. Africa technically should be the promised land, right? Because they're all of the resources that the world depends on are in Africa. Let's keep it a buck. I'm keeping it real. But Africa has been raped of its resources and continues to be raped of its resources for years by corrupt African leaders and Europeans who pay these African leaders to be corrupt. Let's keep it real. So we are going where the wealth is, and we're going to build heavy on that towards the end of the video. I promise you. I promise you. Let's jump to the comments real quick. The guy with the face emoji for his name, he says horrific loss of life. Yes, it is. Anytime anybody dies, it's a tragedy, and it doesn't matter their race, white, black, Asian, Indian, whatever. Like everybody deserves to have life with dignity and respect and be calm. So EU says nothing can hold us back. Hell yeah, nothing can hold us back. How long was your first marriage in Tunisia, and why did you get divorced? If you don't mind answering. Yeah, Greg Mack, I don't mind answering that. So I was married to a Tunisian woman for, I would say, maybe a year and a half. Man, it's been so long. Um, we got divorced because basically I wasn't ready at the time. I wasn't teaching English at the time. I didn't have a stable career. I was working in sales, and my job paid commission only. And even though I was living in Tunisia where the cost of living is much cheaper, I still wasn't getting a steady income, and I couldn't maintain and keep it up, right? So basically, I just wasn't ready as a young man. I got married at like 26 and got divorced like maybe 27, something like that, right? And yeah, man, it was hard. It was hard because I thought I loved her. I thought we had something special, but we didn't have the foundation of what it needed, right? Plus, also, she like went to Qatar. She had to get a job in a different country because I just literally couldn't maintain. But now I'm in a better place. Now I have a real career. Now I'm building this channel. Now I'm doing a lot of other things behind the scenes to try to make more money and be stable. And generally, now I'm in a much more stable part of my life. And for any young men who want advice on relationships, then one of the primary things, not the only thing, but one of the primary things women want is stability. They want a guy that they can depend on and trust, not only financially, but women want a man that they can trust will be there to love them and care for them and support them, but also at the same time to be able to make sure that the roof is over their head, that we have food in the fridge, and you don't have to be a breadwinner. I think a lot of guys get this misconstrued. They think women want major big dick baller breadwinners. Maybe some women do. Maybe some women are out there looking for the big baller shot caller, but the majority of women will settle or accept a guy who basically has something going on for himself. He has a job, he has a career, he has something he's passionate about that he does. He makes some money. He's able to he's not temperamental, he's not moody. That's what a lot of women want. I didn't mean to switch this to relationship advice. I'm just, that question just threw me off into a tangent. Sorry guys. But let's keep it moving, man. So that's your answering to your question on why we got divorced and how long I was married, right? It's already written by God, says EU. Hell yes. So what is meant for us will be, right? And success is for us, man. We will make it to the promised land. Black people will make a better world for ourselves because constantly that's what we've done, no matter what. A lot of people might think that black people once again are a monolith and we have one culture, but we don't, or that we are one sort of thing, or that we are less than human, or that we have limited capacity to think or limited intelligence, but that's not true. What actually is true about us is that we are bright people, intelligent people, beautiful people, and we will always find a way. Not all of us will make it. Everybody can't go, as they say in the streets, right? A lot of people died in those Mediterranean waters. But what do? We keep on pushing, we keep on growing, we keep on moving, man. We keep on advancing, right? So I'm going to jump to the comments before I get back into reading this story, and we're going to build heavy about the wealth that is stolen from Africa. So EU says, no, Saladin Bey says they're not letting these black people in their country because they like them. I don't get what that means. That doesn't make any sense. A lot of people in the YouTube comments don't make a lot of sense. Thanks for the relationship advice. 27 now and wish to get married soon. I hope you get married soon, but don't rush it. Don't rush it, EU. Find the right person for you. Mudia Sorobia, so true, my brother, about women, so true. Yeah, I kept it real, man. I got relationship advice for days, man. I'm not a relationship guru, and I don't think I'll ever will be. But you guys, a lot of men watch my channel, and guys, I want you to know this, man. Like, women are uh, what you need to be a full man. As a man, you will not realize what it means to be a full man until you have a good woman with you. I'm not talking about a bunch of hoes. I'm not talking about sleeping with a bunch of women, right? What I mean is, you will not realize the feeling of feeling like a true man until you have a good woman by your side to motivate you, to push you, but also to check you on some of the bad habits. Because let's keep it real, guys. There's probably a lot of guys in the chat. Guys, let's keep it real. If you didn't have a good woman around you or living with you, would your house be clean? Would you take a shower every day? Would that fridge be full of food? Or would the apartment look like pizza boxes strewn all over the place? You'd be wearing the same underwear for 3 days. Man, you might not even buy deodorant for a month. Let's keep it a buck, man. I've been a bachelor. I've been through all of that. I've been nasty. The only time you clean the house is when you got some floozy coming over to get piped down. Let's keep it real. I'm sorry I'm sidetracking, guys, but let's keep it a buck. But anyway, man, let's keep building. So Italy's Lampedusa in crisis with thousands of migrants arrivals. Right, a group of migrants wait on the island of Lampedusa as Italian authorities prepare for transferring people following new arrivals in Italy, September 13th, 2023. More than 6,790 migrants were on the Italian island on September 13th after a record arrival of 6,402 people in 2 days. The prefecture of Agrigento has arranged for a ferry to pick up around 700 people from Lampedusa to Porto Empedocle, while another 180 people being transferred by an IOM flight. Wow. That's amazing, man. That's an amazing number. Like, literally think about that. Like, what is that? 6,000 people, then another 6,000. That's like 12,000 people over less than a week arriving in a small Italian island. All black people, man. They can't hold us back, man. They can't hold us back. All right, let's go here. So, Lampedusa, Italy, September 14th. The small Italian island of Lampedusa is being overwhelmed by the number of migrants arriving on its shores, its mayor said on Thursday, after thousands of people landed from North Africa on flimsy boats over the past 2 days. Lampedusa sits in the Mediterranean between Tunisia, Malta, and the larger Italian island of Sicily, and is the first port of call for many migrants seeking to reach the European Union. In the past 48 hours, around 7,000 people have arrived in Lampedusa, which has always welcomed them with open arms, Mayor Filippo Menino told Italy's RTL on 102.5 radio. Man, guys, if I was not in Budapest right now, if I did not have to stay here right now for my wife's studies, I would be heading down to Lampedusa or Sicily right now to do some reporting for y'all. Because seriously, what I love to do on my channel is my Black Sit series. I really love that, man. I have a passion for that, to pull up into a country, into a place that has a lot of controversy around it and just document my experiences, right? Like, not there to cause any problems, not there to harass people, not here to instigate the problem, but just to document. I would love to be out there right now, maybe interviewing people or just walking around as a black person there in Sicily right now, just to see what the feeling is like, what the vibe is like, because it's real right now, what's happening down there, man. And God is showing a lot of favor, man. And listen, I'm not saying at all, once again, for anybody to get it misconstrued, that I'm saying that arriving in Europe is the ideal for black people. No, the ideal should be for us to have our home countries be stable and not be raped and pillaged of their wealth by foreign outside forces, right? Like European countries, right? That's not the ideal, man. But let's keep it real. Let's keep it real, man. We are trying to make a better life for ourselves, and I would love to be there to find out how the brothers are feeling, what the situation is like, man. I would love to know that, man. Let's get to some comments real quick. So, uh, Yeah, Mudia Sorobia, haha, nah. When she moved in, she went insane cleaning the place for 72 hours. That's a fact, guys. That's a fact. Let's keep it real. When you have a girl who wants to be with you, like you got a girlfriend or a girl who really wants to, she sees something in you, she gonna have you getting your act right. She gonna make you buy new clothes, clean your shoes, clean that house up, shave your beard. You know what I mean? A woman will make a man act right, right? Because listen, if men were just by ourselves, we would be gross. We'd be really gross. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it moving though. However, we have now reached a point of no return and the island is in crisis, he said. Europe and the Italian state must step in immediately with a rapid support operation and swift transfer of people. The island normally has a population of just over 6,000. The arrivals are a headache for Giorgia Meloni's right wing government, which took power last October with a promise to crack down on immigration. Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini decried a lack of support from fellow EU members, calling the arrivals an act of war and a symbol of a socialist Europe. I'm so sick of right wing people calling migrants coming in an invasion. An invasion is what your guys, Russia, are doing to Ukraine. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it real, man. A lot of the right wing people love Russia because Russia's hard on stance on LGBTQ rights, how Russia is sending its ethnic minorities to go die in Ukraine. So they're doing like an ethnic cleansing in Russia right now. And a lot of right wing people also love that Russia promotes itself as some sort of Christian nation, this Orthodox Christian nation with a unified culture and religion around it. But that's an invasion. That's an invasion. What is not an invasion are people simply coming because the countries that they come from have been destabilized by European forces and European capital for years. That's not an invasion. Those are refugees. Those are people that need help. Those are people who are coming to help your country because the Italian women aren't getting enough, you know, nut in their nut in their gooch. Italian women are not getting enough nut in their gooch to make sure that the pension system in Italy and all over Europe is well funded into the future. Right? Italy has some of the oldest people in the world. Remember, right? Italians are like the second oldest people in the world after the Japanese. Right? And yet you see all these young people wanting to come to Italy, wanting to be a part of this society, learning the language, going to school, working and studying and different sorts of things, and you want to kick them out, call them invaders, simply because they're black. Because let's keep it real. Once again, guys, none of this was talked about the Ukrainians. None of this is talked about the Russians. And let's also keep it real. Let's keep it even somewhat real. Not somewhat real, all the percent, 100% real. They don't even talk about this. They don't even talk like this about the North African migrants and the Turks, right? A lot of Turkish people also leave Turkey illegally. A lot of North Africans, Moroccans, Tunisians are in these boats as well. And they don't talk about them being invaders or it's an act of war when they show up. It's only an act of war when we show up, even though we are not coming with any weapons or any harm to anybody, man. So let's continue. Maloney said at a conference in Budapest that some legal migration could benefit Europe economically, but could not be a solution to the continent's demographic crisis. I'd be interested to know what is. I don't even think Maloney has kids. In Brussels, the European Commission said it was in touch with the Italian government to discuss the possibility of offering more help for Lampedusa. We stand ready to support Italy, and this is what we are doing, a Commission spokesperson said. Baking sun. Some migrants on the quayside in Lampedusa placed towels over their heads to shield themselves from the late summer sun as they waited to be transferred to Sicily by ferry. Let's go to welfare office. Oatmeal Red Bull. That's probably a white supremacist who's in my comment section. Y'all roast him in the comment section, whoever welfare office is, you know. But let's keep it going. Lampedusa has a migrant reception center with an official capacity of only 400. Preliminary data from Spain, another country on the EU southern flank, showed the number of migrant arrivals to the Canary Islands more than tripled. I don't know what trebled means. That's a new word for me. Tripled to 2,891 people in the first 2 weeks of September. Spain says instability in Senegal is one of the major factors fueling the increase. Mateo Villa, a migration data analyst expert from the ISPI, think tank in Milan told Reuters migrant arrivals to Italy this year are close to the record registered in 2016, when more than 180,000 people came. Water break. Y'all drink water, guys. Mm. He said Lampedusa was under particular pressure because 90% of migrant boats in the last 3 months came from Tunisia, the closest African country, and because there are fewer search and rescue missions intercepting migrants at sea. Maloney's government has restricted the activities of charity rescue boats, impounding their vessels, banning them from conducting multiple rescues, and making them travel longer distances to disembark migrants, just hurting the process, making it harder for people to do good humanitarian work. If you are against humanitarian work from people doing search and rescue missions for people lost at sea, uh, trying to hold in their boats from going out there to trying to give people food and water because they've been stranded in the middle of the sea with nothing for days. If you're stopping that, there's a special place in hell for you. And of course, once again, going back to our theme today about justice, God will be just with you. Whatever you are doing, there will be a reaction to that, man. Karma is real. What goes around comes around. Let's keep building. So, Italy has sought to improve ties with Tunisia in July. Tunis and the European Union signed a pact aimed at stemming migrant flows, but that has had no immediate impact. I told you guys earlier in the video, but it's y'all don't sometimes y'all don't believe me. So maybe y'all don't believe me because y'all don't be giving me the thumbs up or any, because I'm speaking facts, man. Tunisia and all these North African countries, they work out deals with the European Union behind closed doors to make sure that they are as oppressive as possible to black people in North Africa. It's a real thing. Since the start of the year, almost 124,000 sea migrants have landed on Italian shores, almost double the number recorded in the same period in 2022, reporting by Yara Nardi. And it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. A lot of people are going to hear this story and they're going to think, oh, what a tragedy. Italy is being overrun by undesirables. But they didn't have that smoke for Ukraine. They didn't say nothing like that when all the Russians started pouring in and buying all the houses in Montenegro. Let's keep it real, man. Let's keep it real. This picture, sure, this picture is picture of the year to me. This picture is picture of the year to me because I know there are so many different interpretations to this picture and there are so many different faces to this picture. And you know what I should have done? In America, there was a picture of this aircraft, this big, large plane that left Afghanistan, and somebody took a picture of all the Afghans on board and all the migrants that were coming to the U.S. And nobody had smoke for the Afghans, which is crazy, right? Right wing, religious extreme America was so happy to let the Afghans come into America, right? But and a lot of people around the world said, "Wow, what a beautiful picture! These people are escaping Afghanistan, right?" But when we see this picture, I know a lot of racist people, people that hate black people that are very anti-black, see this picture of the African migrants who risk their lives to get a better life for themselves, you know, and to send money back home or to do whatever they want in their lives. They're going to see this picture and be very hateful, and that's very sad, man. That's very sad because you would not say this to a boat full of Ukrainians, not at all. All right. But yeah, Mudio Sorobia said, how do you feel about Montenegro, by the way? Hey, I haven't had the chance to go to Montenegro. I was about to. I was this close to going because, as you guys know, earlier this year, I was in Albania. And Montenegro is, of course, right there to the north. And right when we were about to, my wife got the news that she was gonna, go get her master's in Budapest. So we went back to Turkey after Albania, got her visa and that sort of thing, and then we came to Budapest. Would really love to go to Montenegro, but probably I will go during the winter time actually, because I heard during the summer it's mad crowded and expensive. And yeah, I'm not trying to do that, man. I've seen enough beaches in the world. I really want to probably go during a time when I can save money and explore more of the interior or that sort of thing. But we'd love to see Montenegro, man. We'd love to, actually. But let's keep building, man. Let's keep building. Nearly 7,000 people arrive at Italian island in less than 24 hours. Let's clap for them, guys. Let's clap for them. Let's clap for them. Man, this article is crazy. The pictures are crazy. Migrants board on a ferry boat as they leave the island of Lampedusa, southern Italy, to be transferred in Porto Empedocle, Sicily, right? This is April 17th, 2015. This has been going on for a long time, guys. Long time. But we keep on moving, man. They keep on moving. They've tried so much since 2015. Think about how many lives have been lost, how many policies they passed, how many billions of dollars they gave to North Africa to oppress black people, man. And still, we keep pouring in, man. We still keep coming because you know what? We have the right, like every other group of people on the planet, have the right to travel and be where we like and to make money and take care of our families. Let's keep it real, man. So let's keep building. I just want to read this part of the article. Over 120,000 arrivals by sea this year. According to Italy's interior minister, over 120,000 migrants have arrived in Italy this year by sea. Among them were over 11,000 unaccompanied minors. Those are children. Most of them cross Italy on foot, bus, and in trains as they head to northern Italy. Andrea Costa, the president of Baobab Experience, a nonprofit association that helps migrants in transit in Rome, says they have seen a huge surge in migrants from South Sudan, Sudan, and Eritrea coming through this summer. Volunteering Volunteers working with Baobab provide the migrants with a hot meal every evening on a street in Rome. Most of them spend a few nights in Rome before catching a bus towards the town of Ventimiglia on the border with France. So, I want to say about this point, right? This is happening in 2023. More migrants by sea, more African migrants are arriving by sea to Italy this year than I think any other time, right? Or if not, this is a very high point. And even if that's not true, the point is that Italy has a government that is extremely right wing. You know, what's her name? Georgia Maloney does not play. This fake blonde, by the way, does not play on pandering to the right wing, saying we need to kick the migrants out and trying to keep Europe white as hell and old as hell. But let's keep it real. The migrants keep pouring in, and I think partially the right wing wants this to happen, right? I think partially the right wing wants this to happen because essentially they are cucks. And if you don't know what a cuck is a person who likes to see their wife smashed by another man, right? And deep down inside, I really, really believe that the right wing really want to be dominated by the people that they say that they despise. Because when we think about it, right, when we look back in history, all the right wing, fascist, racist, white supremacist movements that have ever existed have always lost, right? In my country, in the US, the Confederates fought a war, a senseless war, to try to keep slavery, even though Abraham Lincoln, the guy who eventually ended slavery, said, I will not end slavery. Guys, I just want to keep America together. The South can be the South. We do not want to end slavery. When Abraham Lincoln was elected back in the 1800s, whatever, he told the South, I do not want to end slavery. But because he was a Republican, and at the time the Republicans were the left wing party, the right wing Democrats in the US thought, oh God, this guy's going to end slavery just because he's left. Let's fight a war. Oh, let's fight him. Daddy, no. Daddy, no. So the Confederates were like, how can I say this? They were like bratty bottoms, right? For the for people who know gay culture, right? For people who know gay culture, bratty bottoms are probably like the worst, right? So these bratty bottoms were fighting a senseless war to keep slavery, even though the president himself said he did not want to end slavery. They fought a war, end up losing the war, and end up losing their slaves as well, right? That's a cuck move. You literally wanted to be dominated in that point. The South had no reason to leave the Union, right? Let's think about Rhodesia, right? In Africa, for people who don't know, Zimbabwe used to be called a country called Rhodesia. Rhodesia was basically South Africa too, like another South Africa, and Rhodesia basically uh, was a country ran by a white supremacist government who wanted to dominate over the indigenous black population. If you look on the map here and you can find Zimbabwe, that's where Rhodesia used to be. And they fought a senseless war to try to keep Rhodesia in white control, in white minority control, right? That's a losing battle. That's like you're begging to be cucked, right? It's like you're begging for somebody to put you in a chastity belt, man. That's like the black people in France saying, you know, we want to take over France and make France be controlled by, you know, black people, right? It's a losing battle. Like You can never dominate an entire country when you are a very small minority, making up less than 10% of the population, right? Through force. If the people rise up against that, that doesn't make sense. That's never worked in any, you know, society ever, right? And so Rhodesia was a lost cause. The Rhodesians who fought for Rhodesia were begging to be cucked, right? Germany, let's keep it real. The Nazis wanted to be cucked too. Let's think about history, right? Hitler invaded Russia uh, even after he signed a pact with them that he would not invade, right? And that many people, many historians acknowledge that as the reason Germany lost. There was no reason for Hitler to do that. There was no reason for Hitler to invade Russia after he signed a deal with them that, hey, we're not going to fight each other while we Germans go to war with France and the UK, and we're trying to get all of this Western Europe popping. Like, the only reason Germany lost was because they antagonized the Russian bear. They were begging to be cucked. I really sincerely believe deep down inside the right wing want people to dominate them. They might say they hate them. They might say they hate black people, or they hate, Jews, or they might say this, but deep down inside they really want, you know, uh, they really want to be cucked. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not trying to get too graphic here, because let's think about this. There's a very famous right wing book called The Camp of the Saints. I'll summarize the story very quickly. I have not read the book, but I have read the summary and heard people discuss it and that sort of thing. And this thought has always been in my mind. The Camp of the Saints is a book about a boat full of migrants from Italy, and not Italy, India. This boat full of migrants from India are traveling on their way to Europe. And on their way, they are just destroying all the vessels and boats that come in their way, right? So there's like a charity boat that comes to them. The people from the charity get on board, and the migrants on board just basically rip and ravage these people apart. They're basically, living in feces and gross circumstances on the boat. So the boat is painted as a metaphorical symbol for the idea of migrants traveling, and the migrants are savage. The migrants are coming to destroy European civilization, and the European leaders are weak and feckless and unable to stop this domination that's coming towards them, right? And I've always thought about this book like this. Why would this right-wing writer write a book, a fantasy novel, about people dominating European society? I've always found it interesting. The guy Jean Raspail, I don't know how to pronounce it, would write a book writing in detail how Europe will be conquered and dominated by people who he considers less than or savages. And this book has been hella influential. This book, Camp of the Saints, is hella influential to white supremacists, white nationalists, fascists, Nazis, and that sort of thing, because it validates their belief about what they think about migrants, especially melanated migrants who are coming to Europe, right? But I really think they want to be cut. If that's not the case, maybe there is a nefarious reason. Possibly, they want the thousands of migrants to come into Europe so that they can validate the continued disintegration of their society and blame it on the migrants, right? Because Europe has a lot of problems, but migrants are not one of them, as in migrants don't contribute to an increase in crime or a decrease in wages. All of those things are dispelled, right? Those are not statistically true things, right? So, what I think they want to do is that if there are more migrants coming into Europe, especially phenotypically different people like black people coming in, they're going to say, our society has a problem, and it's those people over there. Like, those people will always be made the scapegoat. And then when the problems in society become compounded even worse, um, that have nothing to do with migrants, like unemployment, lack of opportunity, or a slack in the growth of wages for Italian workers or European workers in general, like all the things that generally can be fixed if there were actually policies to make sure people have good standards of living consistently throughout the developed world. They're going to say the migrants are the problem, and then the right wing will get even more votes and more in power, right? That's what I think. Those are the two main reasons why I think more migrants continue to pop in, even though more Italian governments are putting up more European governments are electing right wing officials. And I think it's really because they want to be cucked, or they really want to be able to foster and bolster their support when the problems in their society continue. I'm just keeping it real. Those are my theories, man. But let's jump to the comments real quick. Mudio Sorabia, I think I saw four black peoples in the Black Mountain, which is Montenegro. They were pretty chill. I met some Serbs there, but they all they did was talk bad about Montenegrins. Montenegrins in general were chill. You know what's funny about the Balkans? Uh, you know what's funny about the Balkans, man, is that the Balkan people have a lot of beef. But it's funny because oh man, I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna say the Balkan people are like black people, but not in the sense that they have something similar to us culturally, right? And specifically Black Americans, let's say. But like Balkan people see all the differences among themselves, but people that are outside of the Balkans go to the Balkans and be like, all of y'all are the same. Like I don't get, you know, like I met this guy in Germany when I was in Germany a few years ago. Another American guy, right? And he was actually a reporter, and he went to Yugoslavia to talk about the disintegration of Yugoslavia, right? And he was talking about yeah, the Bosnians and the Serbs are having problems, and then the all the stuff. Like he was talking about his time reporting on all of that, right? And he basically said, it's crazy because they speak the same language, they all eat chavapi, and they all love rakia, right? And the only difference between them is that one of them is a Muslim and the other one's a Christian, right? And so, like the Serbs, if you talk to a Serb or if you talk to people from any Slavic nation, right, at least Yugoslavic nation, they can point out all the differences between Montenegrins and Serbs and Macedonians and Slovenians and all this sort of stuff. But when people from the outside world come in, we're like, yeah, we don't really see the difference. Like, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Slavic people are going to kill me for that, but I don't care, man. This is my channel. Mudia Sorobia, well, it just sounds like what Hitler did by blaming Germany problems on the Jews and minorities. Ain't that the truth, man? Yeah, once again, when you blame minorities, when you blame people who are oppressed or less than, in your as a way to gain power, you're showing yourself as a weak leader, man. And I'm gonna keep it real. I don't care who doesn't like this. I'm gonna keep it real. If there are leaders who are saying that gay people are the problem, trans people are the problem, black people are the problem, you're a weak leader because, as we know, most of the problems in our society revolve around money. And the last time I checked, gay people, trans people, Jewish people, other minorities, other people that people might not like or might not agree with their lifestyle don't control my paycheck. Gay people are not the reason why I struggle to pay the rent. Gay people are not the reason why I don't have health care. Gay people are not the reason why, I'm not ranting here, but I'm talking real, man. If you're oppressed, if you're talking about oppressed people as the reason why you're not succeeding, you're a weak leader. And generally you're a weak person, man. We got to keep it real, man. Nothing should overcome you in this world. What I'm trying to say is like, and I might sound like I'm ranting here, but like nothing should hold you down. Nothing should oppress you in this world. We live in a world where things are oppressive to people, right? As a black person, I deal with racism, but I can never give racism as an excuse as to why I can't succeed because the history of my people has always shown that we can overcome racism and bigotry. There is nothing in this world that can hold you back. Whatever you have going on, those might be hindrances, those might be problems, but we can't sit here and blame them. But we can acknowledge them. I'm acknowledging that racism and is a problem in this world, right? I am acknowledging that all of those things are real. But as we're seeing here, racism and anti-blackness is not holding these people back. We are piling in. We are making it to the mountaintop. A lot of people couldn't go. A lot of people couldn't make it. But we're not going to let anything stop us because the history of our people, at least black people, has always been to overcome and to stand on truth and justice, right? Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it pushing, man. So, what is all this migrant crisis that's happening in Europe, in Italy, going to happen? How is that affecting the EU, man? And once again, the EU continues to show its hypocrisy. When the Ukraine war happened, oh, all the doors were open for the Ukrainians. Oh, please, please let the blonde hair, blue eyed Ukrainians into our homes, right? There was a program in the UK where they said, let a Ukrainian into your home. They were giving money to these people, free food, free housing. The EU showed its hypocrisy when they said that anybody who is in Ukraine and leaving from the Ukrainian border at the start of the war should be allowed asylum in the neighboring country or wherever they end up, right? Instead, what happened? All the Ukrainians and a lot of the white people that left Ukraine walked in scot free to Poland or Hungary or other places, right? Romania, wherever, Moldova. But what happened to a lot of the black people? And I reported on this on my channel. You can find this in my playlist on political and social commentary. What happened to the black people that left Ukraine? They got held up in detention centers in Lithuania and Estonia, I believe. All the black people, a lot of the black people that crossed the Ukrainian border. Oh no, wait. Hold on, Matumbo. You got to go to the detention center. But the EU says everybody can leave and if they have asylum. I was a student in Ukraine. Oh no, Matumbo, you got to go back. You have to go to prison. Ain't that a shame, man? What does that say? What does that say, man? Let's keep it pushing, man. I'm almost done with this live stream, but let's talk something. So, Germany suspends voluntary deal to taking refugees from Italy. The German government has suspended an agreement with Italy to voluntarily take in refugees because Rome is not honoring its obligation under the European Union's Dublin rule, said a spokesman from the Interior Ministry in Berlin on Wednesday. Under a voluntary EU solidarity scheme, Germany had pledged to help member states that are particularly overwhelmed by migrants by taking in 3,500 people, said the spokesman. Listen, man, what does this say? The EU has hypocrisy. It's hypocritical as soon as black people show up at the door. The EU makes all these rules, all these laws about trying to validate migrants, to protect migrants, and all these things. All of this on paper is what they say. But then when black people actually come to be migrants, and listen, what can we expect from the EU? A lot of people are going to say, well, it's the EU, it's the European Union. Of course, they're going to look out for white people first. But what happened to humanitarianism? What happened to the idea that you have to take care of the foreigner and the stranger and the people that are fleeing oppression? If not, if you don't believe in the Bible, EU, because this is a secular organization, if you're not a religious organization, at least by secularism standards, you should say that people need to be protected and we need to have laws to make sure that migrants or people that are seeking asylum are validated and we don't just turn them off and on depending on what the color of the migrant is. For the Ukrainians, there was none of this. If anybody can find me an article where the EU started disputing who's going to accept Ukrainian migrants, and this was a big rough, and the Ukrainians were left at the border starving. If anybody can find that article describing that, I will never talk about Ukraine again. But let's keep it real, man. The EU showed its hypocrisy. Let's keep it going. On my last three comments, you were breaking up on the stream, so I couldn't hear you. What did you say? Uh, yeah, I don't know. You'll have to catch that on the playback. But essentially, what I said when you asked about Montenegro is that, Montenegro, I have not been to, but a lot of people in the Balkans have opinions about different Balkan nations. Uh, let's keep it going. Answering your question, Moody and Sorobia. It sounds like what Hitler did by blaming Germany's problem on the Jews and minorities. Yeah, once again, I said I was just building on that. If a leader has to pick on minorities or marginalized people to validate his power or her power, that's a weak leader, right? And now we're on this point about the EU being hypocritical because Germany, like Italy, has a shrinking population. Germany needs migrants, and still, what are they doing? Turning them away. And they're being hypocritical, not even following their own rules when it comes to talking about accepting migrants, right? Sorry, guys. Let's keep it pushing. I hate that I'm coughing now, right when I wanted to get to the most important point. Man, live streaming is not easy. I don't know how the big live streamers do it for this long. Mm, it's not easy, man. Somebody give me tips on keeping it together on the stream. But yeah, let's keep it real, man. Let's take a little break. It's hot over here. As you can see on the screen, it's about 23 degrees. I hate the hot weather. But yeah. All right. Let's talk about what I really wanted to get to through this entire stream. We're going to build on this heavy right now. We're going to build real heavy right now. Honest Accounts 2017, how the world profits from Africa's wealth. A lot of people think, oh, these migrants are coming just for jobs or just for money or just for economic opportunity. They're not real asylum seekers. They're not real refugees. to work, or they're coming because their countries are poor and they're coming to rich countries to make more money. But I have to ask this: which countries are really poor? Is it Italy that has mountains of gold? Is it France that has sands of uranium? Is it Spain that has oil just all right under the soil? No, no, no. It's these African nations. But what happens to those resources that come from these African nations? Do they go back to the coffers of the African countries where these resources are extracted? No, no, not at all. What's actually happening, as we'll read in this article, is that the wealth is being siphoned out of Africa from European powers to European corporations, to European countries. And so the Africans that are coming, I argue, are just coming to follow the wealth that is all African anyway. Let's read from here. So, Honest Accounts 2017, how the world profits from Africa's wealth. I just want to really read this part right here, right? Really want to read this part. Foreign companies take the most of the profits generated by Africa's natural wealth. When multinational companies export commodities such as minerals from African countries, their governments often benefit only marginally, receiving very little tax revenue from these companies. In key sectors such as mining and oil and gas, companies tend to pay low taxes and or are given tax incentives that reduce them still further. Companies are anyway easily able to avoid paying the taxes that are due because of their use of tax planning through tax havens. Many African tax policies are the result of long-standing policies of Western governments insisting on Africans lowering taxes to attract investment. That's a trick bag right there. The Europeans constantly play this trick bag with Africans. They tell the African nations, listen, lower taxes. That way you'll get foreign investment. So the foreign investment comes in, they build the power plants, they build the oil refineries, they not oil refineries, oil extraction plants, that sort of thing. They build the mines, they extract all the gold, the diamonds, the uranium, and that sort of thing. These low taxes got the companies in. These companies are making billions of dollars selling what they're extracting from Africa, and the African governments get nothing in return. Low taxes that lead to foreign investment is a catch 22 for the African nation. You got the foreign companies in, but you're getting pennies on the dollar for the billions that they're extracting from Africa. And that's a shame. Money is leaving Africa partly because Africa's wealth of natural resources is simply owned and exploited by foreign private corporations, and only a minority of foreign investments do African governments have a shareholding. Even if they do, this tends to be small, usually around 5 to 20%. A recent report for War on Want found that 101 companies listed on the London Stock Exchange control and identified 1.05 trillion dollars worth of resources in Africa in just 5 commodities: oil, gold, diamonds, coal, and platinum. Wow, that's insane. That's not billion, that's $1 trillion. $1 trillion worth of natural resources in Africa are owned by a few companies on the London Stock Exchange. The same London that's in the UK government that was trying to send migrants back to Rwanda, fly them across the world and send them to Rwanda, made $1 trillion off African wealth. Think about that right now. That's crazy. These 101 companies have mineral operations in 37 African countries and are mainly British, with 59 incorporated in the UK. However, some 25 of the 101 LSE listed companies are incorporated in tax havens, principally the British Virgin Islands, Guernsey, and Jersey. Wow. Wow. Let's continue more about these corporations stealing money from Africa, right? The $680 billion stolen from Africa in illicit financial flows amounts to around 6.1% of the continent's entire GDP. Multinational companies are stealing $48.2 billion alone through trade misinvoicing, according to figures produced by Global Financial Integrity. Previous research by the UN Economic Commission for Africa found similar figures that multinational companies stole around $40 billion a year from African countries through trade misinvoicing in the flowing with the numbers. Like, y'all have to be hearing these numbers and being as shocked as I am if you're watching this live or if you're watching this through the play playback. Think about that, man. Billions of dollars are taken out of Africa. These are made up fictional numbers. All the sources are here. You can find the link to this article and many more through this article in the description of this video. This is not a game. You can find all of this, research this yourself, and build on it even more. This is embarrassing that this is happening to Africa. Another massive problem is corporations buying concessions at falsely knocked down prices, often linked to corruption and to tax havens. In 2013, the Africa Progress Panel and Global Witness examined 5 major sales of mining rights in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in which each deal involved firms registered in the British Virgin Isles. They found the firms paid at least $1.36 billion below the market value, almost double what the DRC spends each year on health and education combined. To take one country example, figures from the South African Reserve Bank in 2016 showed foreign corporations drawing away profits from South Africa far faster than they were reinvesting or than local firms were bringing home. The net outflow paid to owners of foreign capital reached 174 billion rand, or 11.9 billion US dollars, in the first quarter of 2016 alone. South Africa is having like an electricity problem. Like, they're going through uh, hours during the day where they don't have electricity. That's crazy. $11 billion, I'm pretty sure, could help the problem that South Africa is facing with their energy concerns. And instead, billions of dollars are flowing out of South Africa, right? Because these foreign companies extract African wealth, just literally steal it. African wealth is literally being stolen by these foreign companies that are mostly Western or European. And let's keep it a buck, white. Let's keep it a buck. Due to falls in commodity prices, multinational mining companies such as Lonmin, Anglo American, and Glencore saw their share values fall and were desperate to please their foreign shareholders. Thus, they increased their exported profits more rapidly in comparison with the overseas generated profits that South African corporations paid to local shareholders. The liberalization of capital controls means there is little that the South African government can do to stop this outward flow. That's just one part, man. And this article is very deep on how Africa is being exploited. Let's read this part right here. So, Africa is not poor. Whilst many people in African countries live in poverty, the continent has considerable wealth. A key problem is the rest of the world, particularly Western countries, are extracting far more than they send back. Meanwhile, they are pushing economic models that fuel poverty and inequality, often in alliance with African elites. Africa is generating large amounts of wealth and in some ways is booming. For example, the largest 500 African companies recorded a combined turnover of 698 billion US dollars in 2014. In 2015, countries in Africa exported $232 billion worth of minerals and oil to the rest of the world. The value of mineral reserves in the ground is, of course, even bigger. South Africa's potential mineral wealth is estimated to be around $2.5 trillion, while the untapped mineral reserves of the Democratic Republic of Congo are estimated to be worth an astronomical $24 trillion. $24 trillion under the soil of Democratic Republic of Congo. And yet, the DRC is one of the poorest nations on earth. And it's not because black people are lazy. It's not because black people are stupid. It's not because the Congo is full of people who don't know how to work hard or get it together. It's literally because the wealth is being stolen from Africa. This is not, these are not fake numbers. You guys can look this up yourself. The links for all of this is in the description of this video. These are billions and trillions of dollars that are extracted from Africa every year from foreigners, from foreign Western countries, European countries, white countries. Listen, we don't hate white people at all. We don't hate Europe at all. We just really hate this capitalist group of bloodsuckers that are extracting wealth from black people, which then allows the right wing and racists and nationalists to then say black people have failed countries because they are poor, lazy, and ignorant, when the truth is that the wealth that is in Africa could generally make Africa a real Wakanda, a real place that has wealth and prosperity for everybody. But instead, what do we have? The wealth being stolen. There are very large numbers, but these are very large numbers, but various reasons explain why the majority of people in Africa do not benefit from them, and why the present mode of minerals extraction actually leads to impoverishment. And this is a very, very deep article. We should probably read this article again. But let's keep it a buck. This isn't even the only person. This article right here isn't the only one saying that. Let's go to Al Jazeera opinion section. Nick Dearden, the director of UK campaigning organization Global Justice Now, wrote this piece in May 24th, 2017. Africa is not poor. We are stealing its wealth. It's time to change the way we think about Africa. Let's look here. This is a map of Africa in terms of their what global exports, like African nations, what they export the most. Look at this. Look at this. Look at all these natural resources that we need: phosphate, petroleum, gold, uranium, timber, aluminum, diamonds. Look at all this. Look at all this wealth. Diamonds and petroleum, diamonds and cobalt, copper and cobalt. Look, man, let's read through this. Africa is poor, but we can try to help its people. It's a simple statement repeated through 1,000 images, newspaper stories, and charity appeals each year, so that it takes on the weight of truth. When we read it, we reinforce assumptions and stories about Africa that we've heard throughout our lives. We reconfirm our image of Africa. Try something different. Africa is rich, but we steal its wealth. That's the essence of a report from several campaign groups released today. Based on a set of new figures, it finds that sub Saharan Africa is a net creditor to the rest of the world, due to the tune of more than $41 billion. Sure, there's money going in, around 161 billion a year, in the form of loans, remittances, those working outside Africa and sending money back home, and aid. But there's also $203 billion leaving the continent. Some of this is direct, such as $68 billion in mainly dodged taxes. Essentially, multinational companies steal much of this legally by pretending they are really generating their wealth in tax havens. These so-called illicit financial flows amount to around 6.1% of of the continent's entire gross domestic product, or three times what Africa receives in aid. That's a shame. That's a shame, man. Then there's the $30 billion that these corporations repatriate, profits they make in Africa but send back to their home country or elsewhere to enjoy their wealth. The city of London is awash with profits extracted from land and labor of Africa. There are also more indirect means by which we pull wealth out of Africa. Today's report estimates that $29 billion a year is being stolen from Africa in illegal logging, fishing, and trade in wildlife. $36 billion is owed to Africa as a result of the damage that climate change will cause to their societies and economies, as they are unable to use fossil fuels to develop in the way that Europe did. Our climate crisis was not caused by Africa, but Africans will feel the effects more than most others. Needless to say, the funds are not currently forthcoming. Africa lost billions, and that's what this video is about. If In fact, even this assessment is enormously generous because it assumes that all the wealth flowing into Africa is benefiting the people of that continent. But loans to governments and the private sector at more than $50 billion can turn into unpayable and odious debt. Ghana is losing 30% of its government revenue to debt repayments, paying loans which were often made speculatively based on high commodity prices and carrying whopping rates of interest. One particularly odious aluminum smelter in Mozambique, built with loans and aid money, is currently costing the country 21 pounds for every £1 that the Mozambique government received. That's a shame. British aid, which is used to set up private schools and health centers, can undermine the creation of decent public services, which is why such private schools are being closed down in Uganda and Kenya. Of course, some Africans have benefited from this economy. There are now around 165,000 very rich Africans, which combined holdings of $860 billion. But given the way the economy works, where do these people mainly keep their wealth? In tax havens. In 2014, A 2014 estimate suggests that rich Africans were holding a massive $500 billion in tax havens. Africa's people are effectively robbed of wealth by an economy that enables a tiny minority of Africans to get rich by allowing wealth to flow. Let's keep it real, man. That's a shame. A lot of people don't like paying taxes. Most people don't like paying taxes. I don't, right? I think Google is going to hold back 30% of my YouTube earnings, right? I think that's natural. I've never heard that. But let's see what happens. I'm about to get my first YouTube check in a couple of days, and I'm about to maybe pay like 30% of the money I've earned on YouTube to Uncle Sam, right? To the government. Nobody likes that, but everybody understands that taxes are used to better our society. And rich Africans, unfortunately, are hiding their money in tax havens, which is a shame. If you're a black person not paying your taxes in an African nation, you are an embarrassment to our people. You are not helping our people. Every black African should be paying taxes to their government, whether they agree with the administration or not, whether they are corrupt or not. And yeah, that might sound crazy, but listen, being a citizen is about having responsibilities and also rights and privileges. And as a citizen, if your government is corrupt, like mine is, like the US, you should still pay taxes for to them if you are loyal to the US and if you want the US to continue to succeed. The same applies to Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, whatever. If you don't like the government, participate in it and try to make it change. But don't not pay your taxes, because how if you don't pay your taxes, how are we going to get better African police? How are we going to get better infrastructure? How are we going to get hospitals and roads? Let's keep it a buck, man. Let's keep it a buck. No government in the world is perfect, but paying your taxes is definitely what you should do, especially if you're in a black African nation. Especially. Yeah, and also these companies are claiming tax haven status in the Bahamas and the Cayman Islands and Jamaica and then other places that are tax havens around the world, right? And basically not paying their taxes to the African nations where they're extracting their wealth, which is even more sad. It's all embarrassing, right? So, what is the answer? Western governments would like to be seen as generous beneficiaries, doing what they can to help those unable to help themselves. But the first task is to stop perpetuating the harm they are doing. Governments need to stop forcing African governments to open up their economy to privatization and their markets to unfair competition. If African countries are to benefit from foreign investment, they must be allowed to, even help to, legally regulate that investment and the corporations that often bring it. And they might want to think about not putting their faith in the extract extract extractives sector. I hope I said that right. So, with few exceptions, countries with abundant mineral wealth experience poorer democracy, weaker economic growth, and worse development. To prevent tax dodging, governments must stop pre- prevaric- I'm an English teacher, guys. I'm an English teacher, but I've also been on stream for a while. So let's see if I can read this word. Prevaricating, 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 must stop prevaricating on action to address tax havens. No country should tolerate companies with subsidiaries based in tax havens operating in their country. Aid is tiny, and the very least it can do, if spent well, is to return some of Africa's looted wealth. We should see it both as a form of reparations and redistribution, just as the tax system allows us to redistribute wealth from the richest to the poorest within individual societies. The same should be expected from the global society. To even begin to embark on such an ambitious program, we must change the way we talk and think about Africa. It's not about making people feel guilty, but correctly diagnosing a problem in order to provide a solution. We are not currently helping Africa. Africa is rich. Let's stop making it poorer. And that's how we need to be thinking about this. When we see the migrants coming, guys, when we see the videos of the migrants dancing and being happy that they made it to Europe and that sort of thing, when we see the people that are lining up, we have to remember that these people should not have to leave their country, right? Because Africa is the richest place in the world. They are coming from places where the wealth is looted by Italian companies, by French companies, by German companies, by British companies. They are going to the places where the wealth that Africa gives to the world, most of the wealth given to the world comes from Africa. They are just following where the money goes. Nobody, the African men that are not coming to sleep with these nasty, pasty European broads. The African women are not coming to throw that niash back on, you know, skinny pink penises. Let's keep it real. They're coming to just make money, take care of their families, and escape poverty, crime, and corruption that is caused by the European powers that are exploiting Africa. Let's keep it real, man. I'm going to jump to some comments real quick. That's a pretty Mudia Sorabia said that's a pretty insane amount of money taken. It sure is, man. Imagine whatever country you're from, Mudia, and let's say African nations. We're taking billions of dollars away from your European nation or from the European Union. How would you feel? That's not good, man. You would not think it was okay, and you would ask for it to immediately stop. Mudia Sorabia said, it's definitely a group of people doing it. I think France would collapse if they lose their neo colonies. Absolutely. All of the European powers are dependent on Africa being poor. They're dependent on Africa having its natural resources that are easily exploitable. And that has to stop. That has to stop, man. And I'll land my plane here with this. I'll land my plane here with this, man. The entire point of this video that I made today was to talk about how we as a people, as black people, are able to overcome so much, because we can overcome so much. And listen, we are never going to let anything hinder us or stop us. And who is on our side? The all powerful God is on our side with what we decide to do. I truly believe that justice is a eventually does come, right? The universe bends towards justice, and it bends towards right. And whatever evil that has happened in the world, that evil shall be met with a force equal to it or greater than it, right? And I just wanted to make the point by reading the Bible and talking about the earthquake in Morocco and the flood in Libya, to not relish in the fact that many people lost their lives in those tragedies. Those tragedies should not have happened. But what should not have happened in Libya, which is an active thing that people chose to do and allowed to happen, and people didn't step in and stop it, was the slavery that took place of black people in Libya. That did not need to happen. That was something Libyan people said, we're going to take advantage of foreigners, of oppressed people, of migrants, of refugees, and hold them in bondage and in chains. And if you don't believe that actually happened, look at the article that's in the description here. What did not need to happen is Morocco, the Moroccan government, take money from the EU to build fortresses and electrical fences and barbed wire and shoot at African migrants. That was not a choice that they had to make, but instead they made that choice. And so God said, you know what? There's going to be uh, retribution for that. I do not encourage people to be happy when other people face pain or suffer. I don't encourage people to celebrate the deaths of anybody. No, not at all. But what I'm saying is we have to look at the world this way. God does not forget. Universal justice does not forget. Whatever you believe in, there is such a thing as karma. You don't even have to believe in it or not. Whatever we do in this world, we will be met with the equal force of it, right? And what happened in Libya, what happened in Morocco is a tragedy. But the tragedies that happen to our people are very bad. And those should not have happened. And maybe, who knows? We will never know now. But maybe God wouldn't have sent those floods and earthquakes to Morocco and Libya. Let's keep it real. And once again, the Italians, the European Union, have tried for years to try to keep out the black African migrants through all sorts of racist, evil means. They allowed our people to die in the Mediterranean. There are people that are trying to stop the charity ships and that sort of thing. But God loves the foreigner. God loves the people who are oppressed. God is equal in his justice. And even though not everybody could make it to Italy to make it for themselves or their families. Many people lost their lives. Many people became shark food. They continued. A lot of people continued and strived. And look what we have now. Thousands of people pulling up in Lampedusa because of bad policies that the EU made, and also because people are consistent and persistent on trying to make ourselves better. God loves black people. God will always be on our side. We should never be ashamed of our people. We should never be ashamed of what we have overcome and what we will do. I hope you found this live stream informative. I know it might be a bit controversial, and the points I made might seem a bit extreme, but I'm just trying to point out the fact that we have to be on the side of righteousness and justice, and we need to be on the side of the people who are oppressed, not the oppressors, not the oppressors. And that's all I have to say. I hope this live stream was fun and informative. It's been my longest live stream ever. I didn't plan for it to be about 2 hours or so, but I just felt like building, and we had a lot to talk about. Thank you, everybody who came into the chat. This is the most comments I've ever had in the chat. I hope you found it really cool. I'll be continuing to build with y'all. More content coming soon. Continue to grow. Anybody got any last words before I shut this thing off? No? All right. Well, let's do this. I'll see y'all maybe tomorrow. Continue to build, continue to grow. Love yourself, love your people, love all of humanity, and let's build, man. So, peace. My name is Simon Hill.